Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you've seen the news, it's pretty much all over social media. Canada has officially fallen. Justin Trudeau's little puppet, or possibly the other way around, Justin Trudeau's puppet master has officially won the Canadian federal election, winning a minority government and extending the far-left Liberal mandate for a fourth term.
New Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney and the Liberal Party won the election.
So Canada has decided. They're taking the path of the European globalist, and it's now basically all-out pandemonium all over social media, as Canada's fake Conservative Party has tanked a near 25-point lead in the polls in a matter of months, now resulting in a shameful loss in one of the biggest political downfall stories of the modern age. And obviously it's the talk of the town, everybody's chiming in and giving their opinion, and so I'd like to do the same. Let's dissect this, shall we? I've been following this thing over the last couple of months especially, so let me give you my perspective. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Okay, so it seems as though Mark Carney, the globalist puppet master, has managed to win on a very low-effort campaign built around this notion of standing up to Trump. I mean, this guy apparently has all the accolades, but to me, from my perspective, he seems like quite the unimpressive individual. He's not a great speaker, he's got no charisma. It basically just feels like he just fumbled his way through the last couple months of campaigning, and the only thing that carried the day for him was this notion that he was the guy to stand up against Donald Trump, and somehow that worked. I guess total Trump derangement syndrome has ruled the day in Canada, and so basically, it's a continuation of Justin Trudeau's term. More of the same far-left nonsense, running massive deficits, huge government spending, which Canadian politicians now have rebranded as investments.
And I'd make a couple of distinctions here. What we're doing is we're taking government spending, which has been growing too fast. It's been growing at 9%, the operating spending. We're not spending that amount of money, we're investing that amount of money.
I mean, talk about Chinese communist-style party propaganda. Basically, Canada's headed down the same direction, a massive state-ran economy, taxing their people into oblivion and using the government purse, and of course a little bit of debt sprinkled on top of it to pick winners and losers and control the economy from the top down. It's basically like left-wing authoritarianism that's taken over, and this obviously is bad. It's very bad, and it's a clear continuation, as I stated, of Justin Trudeau, who was arguably the worst prime minister in modern Canadian history. He's completely decimated the Canadian economy. There's no growth, no investment flooding in. Largely, it seems as though investors view this new Canadian model as unfriendly to business, and that's why we've seen the Canadian dollar tank. I mean, just look at the chart. Throughout the last roughly 10 years of Liberal reign, the country's essentially been wrecked. And well, Canadians now just voted for more of this. More taxes, more expensive homes, more regulations, less energy production. You know, more of this stuff. Yep, bringing environmentalism into the heart of every financial decision. I'm sure that's going to work out great. But yeah, obviously this is a disaster. It's going to end in disaster. And now the question is, well, why? Well, if you ask the average Canadian, and especially the people on the right who are in full copium mode right now, it's all Trump's fault. Ooh, it's Donald Trump's fault that this happened to us. But this is a sorry excuse. First off, to blame an external factor for your own failure is the epitome of weakness. The leader of the Conservative Party, Mr. Pierre Poilievre, he didn't lose because of Trump, he lost because of his strategy, his campaigning in light of the Trump tariff pressure. I mean, basically, the way I view it, he took the coward's way. He played the last 3-4 months of this campaign not to lose. He wasn't playing to win, he was playing not to lose. And in the world of politics, you never do this. You don't win by hiding, running. You don't win as a conservative by running away from the label. You win by seizing the day. You win by actually winning the argument, winning the debate on key issues. And this guy essentially tucked his tail between his legs and let the media dictate the terms of engagement. He allowed them to box him in, to define him, and he played right into their hands. He played scared, followed the narrative, and instead of defining the narrative himself, he tried pandering to what the media and focus groups were saying. But that's not what strong leaders do, what strong, charismatic leaders do. You know, people who actually win elections and build grassroots movements, what they do is they lead on the issues, they take stands, they take risks, they define themselves instead of letting others define them. And this guy had the opportunity to rise above all the media noise. And keep in mind, when we say media noise, we're talking about a couple state-ran media operations that get like a couple thousand views per upload and have ratings that are a fraction of what CNN gets. He let that define him instead of showing up on the biggest shows, mostly in the American market, just like he did when he showed up on Jordan Peterson's show, by the way, or podcast, whatever you want to call it. For that interview, got him more than 5 million views, and funnily enough, correlated with his highest point in the polls. Yeah, this guy could have showed up on all of the biggest shows and defined himself, changed the conversation. He could have fought through all the media propaganda and the fear-mongering and provided his own strategy, cut through all the nonsense with some common sense, talk about negotiations, talk about trade relations and negotiations between him and Donald Trump, maybe even try to get a seat at the table to engage in diplomacy. But no, instead, as Patrick Bet-David called him out for, he ran away.
Every time we invited Pierre, arrogant, pompous team, the only podcast he ever did is Jordan Peterson. And I said that to Canadians who love him. The candidate you adore and admire and love doesn't want to work. God forbid he has to cross the border and go talk to other borders to bring attention. You can be as talented as you want and as strong as you want, and you think you've won without earning the right to win. You don't believe in capitalism. You just want it to be handed to you. I'm sorry, Canadians. You need a better candidate that's willing to work their asses off to make Canada great again. And this guy didn't want to work. I watched him give messages. I'm like, what a great message. Get your in front of cameras. Didn't want to do it. Go talk to people. Pierre Poilievre campaigned the same exact way as Kamala Harris did. I am so disappointed in a lack of fight that Pierre showed outside of just getting on mainstream media.
He refused to do Patrick Bet-David, to go on Joe Rogan's show. Shows that would have probably garnered him tens of millions of views, likely hundreds of millions of impressions across social media. He could have taken that opportunity and really led with a message, a different message, but instead he ran away because he was too scared of being labeled friendly to America, and instead tried to copy the left-wing strategy of appealing to Trump-deranged folks. I mean, he is a coward pure and simple. The guy basically disappeared for months, only doing the odd presser as we've been covering, where he'd show up at the podium and talk about Donald Trump's unjust tariffs, and we will stand up with dollar-to-dollar tariffs. Then towards the end of the campaign, he showed up on some insignificant podcasts that nobody except for probably his diehard followers on YouTube watched, and slowly but surely he faded into irrelevancy. I mean, this destroyed his campaign. He came off as too much of a calculated, insincere, just following the focus group's establishment politician. I guess just following the strategy of his establishment consultants who were whispering in his ear telling him, "Ooh, Trump bad, ooh, Trump bad." Absolutely stupid. You do not win as a conservative by pretending to be a liberal. You don't win in politics by attempting to appeal to the middle. You win by building your base, by mobilizing your base, and expanding your base. In other words, winning over people with good ideas. You don't win by disenfranchising your own voters. You need to take risk, especially if you're getting crushed in the polls. If you're down like 5, 6, 7 points, some of the polls showing him down 10, the idea that you're just going to play it safe and somehow coast to victory? Well, obviously that's never going to happen. You have to make noise. You have to convince people that you're the right guy for the job. But instead, this guy played it like a typical empty suit politician and came off as a total political hack. This idea that it's all Donald Trump's fault is ridiculous. Voters are not static. Voters are dynamic and they're malleable. You can convince them to get on your side. You can convince people that you are the man for the job. And I mean, just to show how bad of a job this guy did at convincing people that he was the right guy for the job, he ended up losing his own riding, his own district in American terms. A district or a riding which he held for 20 years. I mean, that tells you all that you need to know. The reality is, the Conservative Party in Canada is a rhino party. They're a bunch of frickin' Mitt Romneys who are too scared to rock the boat. And really, I think the reality is, there's no such thing as real conservative politics in Canada. Both parties support the big socialist state model. They just want to run it slightly different. And well, if you fail to represent a real change, and you don't appear genuine, you don't appear likable, you come off as a coward, a liar, well, it's just not a good look. And honestly, what we might be seeing in Canada is the final stages of the socialist scourge, the slow, malignant growth of the socialist virus. You know, it's been allowed to run for too long, and now government-adjacent interests are too deeply rooted in at this point. Canada is all unions, government workers, government contractors. Everybody in some way is connected, tethered to the big state behemoth. And once you reach a certain point where the majority is dependent on the big state model, well, what do you think's on the horizon? Total single party rule, or I guess in this case, more of a uniparty situation. And the simple fact is, in this election, they didn't have the balls to run on true reform. And I think this should be a lesson to politicians everywhere. Grassroots is the key. It's clear that this guy thought he had a grassroots thing going, but really I think when he was up 25 points in the polls, he was riding the wave of Justin Trudeau's failing brand. And when it came for him to really prove himself, when he met challenges in a serious campaign, he failed pure and simple. He didn't adapt. His weakness as a campaigner got totally exposed. He just kept repeating the same old tired lines, the same stuff that he had been saying for the last 12 months, expecting that it was going to work in a changed environment. But obviously, it didn't. And he lost to possibly the biggest loser globalist bobblehead on the planet. I mean, he lost to this nerd. There's no excuses for this. There's no blaming Trump. He lost to possibly the least charismatic, biggest loser globalist I've ever witnessed. There's only one man to blame. He's got to blame himself. You know, sure, the Trump factor played a role, but I think it was more about how he played that factor than anything else. Politics is an unforgiving, constantly changing game, and how you meet the moment is really what counts. And when you lose, you only have yourself to blame. And well, now, the reality is, it seems as though Trump got exactly what he wanted, a weakened Canada, continuing down this path of big government globalism, a weak economy. Meanwhile, America's bringing in trillions of dollars in investment over the next 5 to 10 years that's already locked in. And so Canada lost big time last night, and I think in the end, time will tell. It seems Canadians voted for a guy who made these big, bold claims about standing up to Trump, but they essentially just voted to weaken their nation on the global stage and alienate their biggest partner, a partner that they deeply depend on. Trump derangement syndrome is a hell of a drug, I'll tell you that one. I just feel bad for the next generation of Canadians who are going to continue to fall further and further behind. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.